Welcome to the Fiddy Host Podcast, a podcast about the challenges of building a new internet. I am your Fiddy host, Paige. Returning this week, Reece Martin, and of course, Victor, to talk about something I'm really, really excited about at the moment. Like, I can't stop. Victor knows this. I cannot stop going on about the Threadiverse.
The Threadiverse. Is that how you're gonna call it? Because I asked you, like, how would you call this form of like interaction online? Like, what's the name?
Do you like it?
Threadiverse?
Yeah.
Sure. I like it.
I mean, it's better than link aggregation discussion forum.
So there's no kind of real coined term for it, right?
No, it's weird. It's just like that thing Reddit is.
Okay.
That thing that Digg was.
Isn't there another social media platform that's just about like posting links?
There's Hacker News.
I feel like there's something like Hacker News that isn't, but anyways.
It's that thing of like sharing and then talking about it.
Yeah.
What we're talking about is Lemmy, PieFed, Mbin, Kbin, these services that are in this kind of category. Microblogging is what Mastodon is, and it's got its parallel in Twitter. And the parallel for these guys is Reddit. I'm trying to figure out if these things are actually good, or if it's just that my preference has always been for this over microblogging.
In what sense?
I really like the format of like upvoting and downvoting like threaded comments on things as a way to like understand a topic.
I don't like Reddit, but I can appreciate why someone might prefer it to Twitter. I think Twitter's format leads to conflict for sure. I think it is an unhealthy website. And I think that even like people have this attitude when Blue Sky and Mastodon appeared, as if there wouldn't be the same problems that kind of exist with Twitter because of its format. And it's like you still have people who quote you and are like, this person, what they're actually saying is that we should blow up another country or something like that.
So why don't you like Reddit?
So I shouldn't say I don't like Reddit. Here's my full take on Reddit. I think it's really cool that there is a site that has like forum. It's essentially a forum, but it's like a nice modernized forum with a system for rating posts, which is very valuable. And a lot of forums make it really hard because I do go on like some of the only remaining serious forums, which are like about urban development and stuff. The thing that you notice is it's great that there's a huge volume of stuff. And so you can find information about anything, but it's also terrible that there is a huge volume of stuff that's just impossible to sift through. So Reddit is correct in having a system that kind of services the best or the hottest content or most controversial content. I think that is good. I think that the fact that it covers so many topics is really powerful. Like, I don't use Reddit a lot, but I think I probably could find a lot of subreddits that are amazing and that I just love. But I have found that one issue for Reddit with me is that it's just like so addictive. Like, I can just sink so many hours into it. So that's the first downside. The other downside as like a content creator is that people post my stuff on Reddit and people are mean, and they're mean to an extent that they're not in other places, I find. And it not only does it feel like the meanness is higher than in other places on Reddit, but there's these people on Reddit who were just like, they're like your personal anti-heroes. Years ago, I made a video basically saying like, this city, I think it's doing a silly thing. And then the person, they're like, Reece Martin grew up in this town, and based on what he's saying, he should be complaining about his hometown, and oh, do you know that in Toronto, where Reece Martin lives, they once did this thing, which Melbourne also does, and so he's obviously insane. It was like 100 posts from this person. They were like encouraging other people to like pile on. And the crazy thing is I don't go on Reddit because the people are on Reddit, but you would like for a while, I would like go and look at their accounts, and they would literally just go to random threads and try to redirect them to like, Reece Martin is a terrible person. And it was just like a level of passion. Like, it was weird. Like on Twitter, I haven't really experienced that where people like make you the content and then try to, which I guess Reddit again can make. There's a not just like subreddit. There's like people try to kind of make themselves the content, but Reddit like did it for me, and then it was just like an unbearable experience. So that's why I don't love Reddit.
Okay, it's interesting. I think there's a few things, right? Like on Twitter, when your account becomes famous, right? and then you kind of almost have like something to lose. If you're, and often you're not anonymous, you are like a public figure on Twitter. Reddit remains anonymous, like almost across the board. Hardly anyone is just themselves. You can kind of figure out who people are, you know, but the famous thing is the community. And so it has this hive mind thing to it, right? Where it just kind of goes after you like a fucking collective. And so if you're on a subreddit that has a political leaning or whatever, it's almost like they're rapidly trying to assemble the best case for why you're a piece of shit.
Yeah,
whereas on Twitter, there's usually like, oh, this guy likes me, this guy hates me, this guy like, you know, like
On Twitter, it feels a bit more balanced because if you have a lot of followers, you're gonna get a lot of flack. But you can also like turn the cannons towards this person who's giving you shit, quote tweet them and be like, this person is an asshole. And then the million people who are following you will like descend on them and give them grief. You can't do that on Reddit.
you can't weaponize your own side to defend yourself. But that's also why I think Twitter is worse, because it does kind of like,
With great power comes great responsibilities.
Twitter wants you to like set two sides on each other and fight, and then everyone's going back to check. Whereas like Reddit is kind of, it kind of feels a little bit more like
Truth seeking.
Yeah, it feels a little bit more like arguing over a Wikipedia article where they're like trying to just iron out like a position, and then it's like, that's that.
I hate the comparison because it gives me like PTSD to trying to edit Wikipedia articles, because it does give me the same feeling.
I've always thought, like, for example, a character limit is nuts, you know? Like, why take away potentially the greatest benefit? Like, someone, as you've said before, will put in a massive amount of time into putting together a really comprehensive blog post as a comment that becomes like a reference point for like thousands of people over time. That's so useful. It's just crazy that Twitter is making people kind of spin the wheels on like useless stuff a lot of the time. It's very ethereal. It's like, oh, you know, here's a 17-part thread about like this thing in the news. But it's like,
And is it possible to find or anything?
no one's going to be fucking coming back to that 10 years later to like get the deets, you know, like on comprehending a topic.
I mean, I think all of this is a case for the Threadiverse in the sense that like it is so ephemeral, right? It's like you write a really good thing in Reddit or on Twitter, and you know, you can bookmark it, but you're like, in 10 years, is this going to be here anymore? That's bad, because if you actually wrote something really good, like you should be able to keep that around and you should own it. And I think that that's a big problem with the way social media works today. And that not only like is it bad because some people really lose out, but it probably disincentivizes a lot of people from engaging in a serious way, because it's like, it's all Zuck's posts anyways.
All the AI is just scraping things that Elon Musk has said.
That's going to be like 90% of ChatGPT's training data at some point, right? It's just Elon's toilet thoughts.
I think the upvote downvote thing is really good too, because like, can you imagine if upvote downvote happened on Twitter and Elon Musk was just downvoted every time? You know, like, it's not a lot of nuance to give it a thumbs up or thumbs down, but like, God, can't even get that out of fucking Twitter? Like, Jesus Christ.
What do you think, Victor?
I think the main problem for me with Reddit is the kind of way it forms a consensus, or kind of like an expected way people should behave in every kind of subreddit. So there's kind of a culture forming thing, and where when people start deviating from the expected like way you're supposed to behave in that subreddit, you just get like downvoted. It's like, shoo, go away.
And the moderators go do some crazy on you.
So I think it's good in the sense that, yeah, it kind of forms like Paige said, it's kind of a hive mind, but it doesn't necessarily
coalesce around the right thing.
So it doesn't necessarily enable people to kind of deviate from that and bring their own ideas, because you're going to be fighting against that big blob of people that have like a kind of this is how you're supposed to behave in that subreddit.
If you go to the conservative subreddit, say, like I spend time on there, and when I say something like, you guys seem paranoid, it gets downvoted, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So you can't really have honest discussions about things.
But it is subreddit by subreddit, but the problem is a lot of the time when a subreddit does run wild, right? Like for Donald, or even a conservative subreddit, a lot of them get cancelled. A lot of them get removed. There's the overarching Reddit hive mind. And if people on lots of subreddits or the bulk of users are like, that place is toxic, it's promoting terrorism, blah, 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 eventually the overall Reddit Inc. will actually come in and like, it's within these boundaries, right? You know, of what you can do.
It reminds me of, I use Substack for my blogs. I was on WordPress. Substack is not tied into the Threadiverse. WordPress was a bad experience for me. But nonetheless, I had this experience where people go on social media because the best thing they have to do with their time. And they're like, you shouldn't use Substack. I don't like the things that people who run Substack say. And it's like, if I go on another platform, like someone was like, you should use Medium. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure there was some controversy with people running Medium before. And so it's like, there is a need to kind of decouple some of this like moderation and other things from the sort of platforms themselves and from individuals' content, because as a content creator who's made their living for like the last 7 years making stuff online, it's amazing when someone's like, you just need to migrate all of your stuff to another platform. Because, you know, in a Threadiverse world, that might really be possible. We were talking at one point in some other conversation about like move functionality needs to be better, but it's like, ideally, if I don't like the platform, I could just migrate. But in reality, every time you migrate, you lose a huge portion of your user base. And at the same time, you might still have problems. You might still deal with all this crap. So it's not like the idea of, I just want to swap out the people who are getting the clicks. Like I don't want this to route to Substack. I want it to route to somewhere else. And I want everything else to be the same. That's something that's possible in a Threadiverse world, and it's just not really possible today.
The kind of metaphor I'd use for like people who aren't content creators is, it's like someone finding out that someone that they work with, you know, or someone in management is kind of shady in some way, and then being like, yeah, quit your job tomorrow, quit it. I've seen so many people put up with like just crazy shit from employers before because you have to build up some savings and you have to like make some plans and stuff.
It's not a low cost thing.
This is kind of interesting because it's going on actually with the Threadiverse right now. Lemmy is the established existing thing. So there's this alternative, PieFed, which is like a Python-based kind of equivalent. And it's implementing a lot of things that are really interesting. Like, for example, anonymous voting is an option in PieFed. They have a second account, a second kind of activity pub account, and it casts votes on your behalf from your server so that they can't trace it back to you. On Lemmy, your account pushes out a broadcast that you're voting a certain way. So you could just kind of harvest and reconstruct what people are voting for. So, you know, it definitely has some features going for it. And what's really cool is I signed up for PieFed. All the Lemmy subs, all the Lemmy communities are in PieFed because it's all connected with ActivityPub. So you can just use PieFed.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
Like, this is exactly what I'm talking about, effectively, is the ability to kind of seamlessly migrate from service to service.
One thing that made me want to use PieFed, went on the Lemmy Git issues, and the founder was like, we're not interested in implementing migrate in Lemmy. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to stay using Lemmy. Like, that's actually my biggest thing. Like, I really, really want, as a top priority, migration on any service that I'm going to go and commit massive amounts of time into creating content for and stuff. And I want to hear from the developers, yeah, we're working on that. Yeah, we'd like to do that.
It would be kind of cool if there was a service or platform where it would kind of surface the policies of different Threadiverse services, because clearly it's going to be a migration-heavy thing. It's going to make moving around easy. And so it would be good almost if it was a built-in function of the Threadiverse in some way. You know, there's like a governing body that just kind of publishes, here are their policies on various things, right? So it would be like if you had a if the music streaming had to say, well, Spotify will let you migrate your playlist, but if you go sign up for Apple, they won't. And that kind of thing would allow people to, not only do you have all these different options, but it's sort of like an a la carte. Like, if I want the features I want, I can go with this service versus another.
I thought about building that as like a blog post where you just have this massive table and be like, can you view a PeerTube video inline in PixelFit? Can you view a PeerTube video inline in Duh? And just trying to kind of...
Would have to be living.
Yeah, it would put pressure on the services to implement the move. Like GoToSocial has the same move command compatibility that Mastodon has. And then because they have coalesced around that with another service, that is what W3C needed to make it an official standard. There is some of that too. The way that they work, the way the standards organization works, is they won't take a standard from one. It has to have organically been shown.
But you can help the organic process with some fertilizer.
Good job, GoToSocial. Good job, Mastodon. Like, you guys have not gone and been like, well, I think it should be camel case, or like whatever has like made it not compatible, right? Yeah. So there's two things that I was thinking about as you were talking. And it's the thing where you're like, this is why I think, I'm going to say it, I think that the Threadiverse will beat Reddit. Like, I think that Reddit is in serious risk of losing its position, and it's like maybe Mastodon or whatever will remain obscure. I think that the Threadiverse will actually overtake the incumbent.
It's plausible, actually. For some reason, just from what you've told me, it actually seems, and I think it's maybe, I just wanted to say why I think that is before you say why you think it is. It feels like Reddit is so community oriented and it's so link based, and it's like, there's so little. The only thing that holds you on Reddit is the community. And if the community just decides like, oh, our discussion is now on Lemmy or wherever else, it's pretty easy for people to say, okay, I guess I'm deleting my Reddit bookmark and putting a Lemmy one, right?
Yeah, well, especially if you're on Reddit for a specific community. If you're like, I'm just here for whatever, this
Star Trek.
Yeah, or Star Trek or whatever.
We have to bring up Star Trek every episode.
Yeah, I think the thing that really stands out to me is, when you talk about the Reddit hive mind problem, this solves that. You can have an instance of PieFed or Lemmy, and that has your anarchists that are saying they want to blow up banks or whatever, and they can fucking have their subreddits where they say crazy stuff and have to live with the consequence of the government being like, well, we will throw you in jail. If they want to do that, that's fine. But it's not a corporation having to, do it, right?
It's not a natural thing, right? Like, this is it just makes more sense. Like, the corporation, it's not in its best interest. It's probably not really interested in doing the moderation. Like, moderation is kind of like the biggest problem in social media, to be honest.
You're outsourcing thousands of jobs of moderators running these instances and deciding like what risk they're willing to live with based on the jurisdiction they're in. If they're in America, okay, more freedom of speech. If they're in Germany, well, like Nazi stuff, problem.
And what's great about Mastodon is you can have your instance really small, close the sign up, so you don't really have to do moderation really when you have your own instance.
Yeah, and you could have, I could totally see that being like a couple of small instances of a Lemmy or a PieFed or whatever, where you have like a niche community, and you pay a little bit of money to be a member of that. And you have the benefit of being like, well, my account, I won't have to migrate it because,
That is nice. There is a sort of, it's nice to have some degree of exclusivity. It's like, you can imagine if you were into public transportation, you might want to have a bouncer at the door who's like, why are you here? And the guy's like, I like that bus. And you're like, no.
This is a new flyer sub.
Exactly. That's actually like, that would make the internet better.
I think people don't realize, but way back, there's the Something Awful forums, and those you actually had to pay.
That's right. I remember I paid.
It's not like it's a new idea to have these kind of communities where you pay to get in, but then you kind of like this floor of like, at least people are interested enough in this topic to shell out a little bit of money just to get like quality conversations.
That's a really good point, Victor, being like, because Something Awful, it was like $5 one time.
It was before my time, but I just know that was a thing.
It's kind of like Patreon, right? Like, you have a Patreon, I had a Patreon, but it's the same principle as any paid service.
$5, and it's not about the $5. It is about the moderation, the reduction in moderation work.
If someone is really crazy, they're probably not willing to give you money or to pay into a kind of community that they're going to go terrorize, right? And if they do, well, you got the money and they can be booted out, right? So it's actually kind of a really healthy thing.
Yeah, and it's great because you could have, say, a Canada instance, a Canada co-op instance, and you can still interact with all the other instances. You can vote on them, you can comment and all that sort of stuff, but your data is kept in Canada. And there'll be maybe a few core communities on your instance, which say are talking about a Canadian's topic or something that makes sense for that instance.
This is like, I'm just like, what about this? This is like, think about this. This is an idea for your page. Okay. Imagine you have a Canada instance, right? Imagine I use this Canadian Mastodon instance like I use Twitter, right? And so I know of people who have tried to travel to America in the recent past who have literally been turned away because the border guard looked at their Twitter and they saw them tweeting stuff not saying who knows what about Trump, right? Imagine if you had a Canadian instance and they could literally just you could have like a button or a function and just drop all Donald Trump discussion from your feed, and then it's like give your phone to the border guard, or they could do it at an instance level. That would be pretty awesome, but it wouldn't make sense on like Twitter.
And they could also have access to it, right? The NSA has a backdoor to Twitter's database or whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's hosted in whatever country you're in, or Canada's a great place to host stuff, right, Victor?
That's right.
Montreal specifically.
We keep it safe in Montreal for you guys. So yeah, if you're not only is it kind of security for obscurity, like who is this guy on the Threadiverse? Because it's not one website, right? We truly are a pull request away from a feature like that existing. And in the world that we're heading into, you can see why someone might go, let's do that. The other thing is with Reddit, like why this is actually an improvement. Reddit didn't used to have an algorithm that worked the way it does now. Like it wasn't that long ago. It was like 4 or 5 years ago. Reddit used to just be like, it had like a top posts sort of thing going on. And when you opened up your main feed, it was the things you were subscribed to. And they were like the top things from the last day or so. Now it's gone into algorithm mode, and the algorithm fucking sucks. It's like Reddit was already built around the Threadiverse idea of like, show me what I want to actually see.
Yeah.
And it worked really well because it's like, I want to know about Montreal. I want to know about like Canada transit. You know, I don't want to see world news. It's so annoying that Reddit's changed this thing because you see the same posts again and again. You never see a post from a subreddit that you've subscribed to because it's not hot enough. But I'm like, no, like even if that's for broccoli, I do actually still want to see it. I know that it's not as tempting for me to click, but I actually do want to see everything that shows up in the Montreal cycling subreddit. It's a very short time that you can remember when Reddit worked the way that these things work. And so it's very refreshing. It's like, you know, it's the difference is stark. Whereas the other things like Facebook's been kind of a toad boiling in water for like 15 years, right?
This is a fantastic point because I think we were having a conversation at another point about like the way that internet services, but tech in general, it has these cycles. It's kind of like fashion. Stuff changes over time. And it's like when something just works for you, you want some durability to it, right? Like you want it to be like a physical tool where it's like, I like this screwdriver for the rest of my life. I will purchase this screwdriver instead of like this weird thing where you like, I like Reddit today, but Reddit wants to mutilate itself and you just have to, you're like kind of along for the ride, right? And so you can imagine this is another great reason, like the Threadiverse can provide you, at the very least, some resilience to this, because if you really don't like the way things are going, you can bail out. But you could also find there could be the instance that's like, we do things this way, and we're going to keep doing it this way for until the end of time, right? And I think that's really valuable.
And if you're not happy with anything that's out there, you start your own, and you know that it will be what you want for the rest of the time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's funny. There's already like, if you install Lemmy has a theme called old.lemmy. Like if you go to a Lemmy instance, and it just looks exactly like Reddit from like 2015. So it lets you.
I'm like, oh, wow. This looks like Reddit.
The thing I didn't realize about it, like I've written up a blog post on this, is that it's a lot easier to use than Mastodon. The learning curve is not as steep, but there is still a little bit of you need to know this to it. Like you need to know to subscribe to communities, and it works best when using an app. My friend Raphael, who uses it, his recommendation is don't use the website, just use the app, use Voyager.
The first instance I see is called Lemmygrad, which kind of fits with your description of the service.
Yeah, I think it might be the biggest problem with the Threadiverse is just that the people that are on the Threadiverse are just an outlier group.
That's why we need mass market, Paige.
I kind of feel a little lonely in being kind of like not a particularly like radical,
Partisan.
yeah, politically partisan person. Like
You're swimming in a sea of people with a particular mindset.
it can make it like you have to be pretty persistent to want to stay there. Because like the mainstream forum, like, I mean, it's kind of actually, in Canada, the Canadian subreddit is kind of right wing. So r/Canada is like, there's so many posts that are like, too many immigrants, and that gets upvoted all the time, right? So there's r/Canada, there's r/Canada sub, there's r/En Garde pour Vie, and these are all different mainstream Canadian subs because like one sub's become too right wing or left wing, and so people have like bounced and gone to their own. But it's weird when you go to, r/country name and you expect the most generic plain thing like r/Montreal. I expect it to just be middle of a road Montreal, but instead it's like radically communist, And so you go in there being like, well, I think we should build all sorts of housing for the variety of people that live in Montreal and what they're looking for. And it's like, fuck you, fascist! I'm excited about it, and it's something that I'm like, what's the opportunity for Fiddy host here? Like, should we host it or not? And is it a good thing to host, or is this the sort of thing which people should get a VPS for and just do it themselves? And
no, we should host everything.
Victor signing up for working all night.
I think it's really good that like you get to find the platform you want to use on the Threadiverse, and everybody should have the thing that makes them really happy be on the Threadiverse.
Well, Kbin and Mbin, they are a hybrid of microblogging and threaded discussion. You can use that account to just post like there, I think whatever on the account, or you can go into a community and post.
Which is interesting. I mean, I think that this is one of the best things about the Threadiverse is just that it's going to allow people to roll their own all kinds of services, and we'll actually see what is good, right? Like so far, because of the way social media has worked, because of the fact that your account's not portable, etc., it's been limited to like, I assume that in like North America, the top 5 social media platforms have like 90% plus of the activity. And it's like, you can imagine this will just lead to a decentralization that leads to more innovation and less concentration in the market. So it'll be interesting to see what comes of it.
I'm really excited about the day that the move command gets implemented. And so for someone like you, Reece, you have your YouTube channel, right? And you're closing it down. You're like, all right, I'm doing YouTube, and now I've decided to do something else with my life, With the Threadiverse and the way that it's going, the fact that you'll be able to be like, after a year, go, I'm going to migrate all my YouTube followers over to the blog and keep them all.
Oh, it would be unbelievable. Like, I'm literally, for better or for worse, I'm like, hey, goodbye 300,000 people. I guess, I'll talk to you some other time. And yeah, and it's not in YouTube's best interest to allow me to migrate them, but it's clearly better for everyone else.
So that's just so exciting. It just lets people do what they want, It lets software developers make cool things that are experimental and exciting, and it lets people who make stuff. I mean, how many YouTubers do we know, Reece, who are like grinding out videos, not really feeling very good, not wanting to do it anymore, but they're just like, well, what am I going to do?
There's no alternatives, right?
The biggest thing about the Threadiverse is that if you're a developer or somebody who wants to build a platform, you don't have to worry about getting people to join your platform. If you build it on top of ActivityPub, then you already have all this pool of users that can already, like, from the moment you launch, they don't have to migrate to your platform. They can already interact with it without even being on it.
Pretty amazing, because it's really, think about how many times you go to a website, it says sign up, and you're like, okay, no, that's not happening. And so it would really, it would change things a lot. I mean, literally, I just went to Lemmy and it was like, sign up. And I was like, nope.
But you can't see everything, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think ideally at some point, it literally becomes like, okay, my Mastodon instance or my like ActivityPub instance or my account is on my computer. I just open a service and that's it. I don't have to sign in or anything. It's just, you can see it, and maybe you need to click a button for it to actually kind of read write, but that would be pretty amazing.
Yeah. I think that's the direction it's going. And I think that some of the stuff that's going on with Threadiverse exemplifies the future. Effectively, PieFed is 99% just reading Lemmy things at this stage. So Lemmy.ca started PieFed.ca, the same kind of management team, and they're just running them in parallel. So choose which one you want because they're both interacting with the same stuff. So it becomes irrelevant. You can just choose your preference. Anyways, exciting developments there, and we will keep people posted as to where we get to with new services. At the moment, if you're watching this, our focus is on cleaning up the website and getting things really running really well and optimized. But at some point in the next, couple of months, we'll be like, right, what's the next thing to add? So let us know if PieFed is something that you'd be excited in using. We'll take that into consideration. Thanks for listening or watching. If you're out there on PeerTube, we also upload to YouTube, so you could watch us there, but it's a little bit delayed. Also, the podcast feed is now fully functioning and working, thanks to the hard work of the folks there at PeerTube. So you can listen to us as well, where you go for a run. If you're on Strava, I hope you come back for another round at some point in future, Reece, and let me know if you've got any more Threadiverse, thoughts.
I will. I'm quite confident I will.
Comment away, and we'll see you out there on the Threadiverse.
Au revoir.